So it's just shortly after New Year's that I started developing a fever and cough, and turns out it is COVID. So pretty much for 5 days I didn't show up to work. I just self-isolated, didn't leave the house or anything, and then the Saturday, which was last Saturday, I actually came to work, and for 3 hours I was out there getting shopping carts in the freezing cold, and when I came in, I started shaking violently, so pretty much the managers just took me to their office, and then I cabbed to the hospital where they swabbed me, and it turned out to be COVID. Now, how I got it most likely from my roommate, who may have caught it from work or from him just having grinded people over. I mean, he has still been going to work every single day. Don't remind me not to go to his place of work, because I'll most likely catch, like, I mean, it's deplorable conditions, but it's the reality that you don't get paid if you catch COVID. It's not really easy being a minimum wage worker. Now, generally speaking, we catch viruses and catch colds, catch flus, and all that generally when it's generally triggered by high cortisol, and that's just really because of stressful events. Like, one thing I can tell you safely is my hours are dangerously cut at work. Like, I might get 6 hours a week, and then pretty much rely on being called in for shifts, and that is kind of stressful. On top of that, my landlord had been having trouble with the bank with the place I live in, so I wouldn't want to have to relocate. But if it comes to that, it comes to that, and it's stressful for everybody. So pretty much thinking about this whole situation, that I kind of thought about, like, the fact that psychosis is also triggered. Now, psychoses are completely different than the flu. Like, I mean, generally speaking, I'll just give a slight bit of history. Like, so generally, men start developing schizophrenia types, like, fall into psychosis around when they're 16 to 18. Generally, during that time, what happens is the awkwardness of puberty. It's graduating high school. People kind of think, oh, it's just the person's acting is a behavior issue. People are just acting differently because of what's going on. Women, typically it happens a bit later, generally in early to late 20s, but still generally like maybe they're graduating college, they've been in relationships, something's happening. So often these things get overlooked. So I know I got my first psychosis when I was 16. I've talked about that a little bit. It was February 9th, 2001. I remember before that, I was kind of struggling with math, struggling with chemistry. My parents were really putting a lot of pressure on me. What would happen is I would go into moments where I just like sort of black out. All I could think about was depressing stuff. I'd just be stuck in this huge depression, and then a few minutes later, I would just think, what was I worried about? And I can tell you, I do remember right before the psychoses, right before I started getting feelings of deja vu and feeling like I lived all these things in my dreams. Well, I got some sort of intense euphoria, like really something that at a time I actually craved. I loved feeling of euphoria. Just feeling very happy. But generally speaking, it was not really something that I would want to chase at this time in my life, given the fact that I am really anti-drugs. Like, even like the cough syrup that I'm using is a natural cough syrup, like no DMT in it. I don't smoke marijuana or use THC, even though it's legal. I don't drink alcohol or anything like that. I don't smoke cigarettes, nothing like that. Anything that can alter the mind, I don't want. Um, Now, the second psychosis was again triggered. Like, the second major psychosis was again triggered. My parents, like, this was a time when I wouldn't even hired myself, but my parents were forcing me to try to get a job. My psychologist said diagnosed me with IQ of 86. That's actually my most popular video. I'm not sure how it got popular, but all the same, I wouldn't have hired myself at the time. I was so low functioning. I was over medicated, wrongly diagnosed as bipolar. Uh, my parents were pushing me, and it was really unnatural that they were pushing me. And I know this sounds like I'm demonizing my parents. Like, yes, they put a lot of trauma on me. I'm gonna die with this trauma. But I'm not trying to demonize them. They did not know how to raise a disabled kid. I'm not trying to make them excuses either. It's just that I find it so hard to sometimes talk about, like, the trauma that I went through, because sometimes I just feel like talking about it makes it harder, and people don't understand why someone who would talk bad about their parents, and I don't know, it reminds me of Act 1, Scene 2 in the play Hamlet, where Claudius tries to tell Hamlet to get over his dead father, and it doesn't work that way. You can't just throw away the excess baggage like the past, maybe in the past, but it's with you everywhere you go. But all the same, the second psychosis, yeah, was when I was 20, and that was when I was actually diagnosed for the first time with schizophrenia, or the second time with schizophrenia, but kind of undiagnosed, and just they thought some sort of sensory issues, which I also have. But yeah, this was similar, again, like was dreaming about things beforehand, I had intense euphoria beforehand, and it was triggered. Just remember, like, life is short. Try your best to manage stress as best as possible, because it affects your health in every single way. As for this COVID, I'm lucky that I got very mild. I mean, pretty mild considering it is, a pandemic, and it's just the fact is, the real pandemic is always going to be, in my eyes, going to be mental health and ignorance. Just stay safe out there, and as always, thanks for watching.